How do zoom levels and screen resolution in Starbound impact gameplay? In this guide, we will analyze zoom levels and screen resolution and how they affect the play experience. Let's deconstruct zoom levels and screen resolution in Starbound.
Deconstruction Gaming.
According to a Steam hardware survey in March of 2018, 72% of Steam users play at 1920 by 1080, and another 11% play at 1366 by 768 and 1360 by 768. So I got to wondering, what impact does resolution and zoom level have on Starbound? What resolution and zoom level do you play at? Let us know down in the comments. For this video, we will run the game in 1920 by 1080 resolution. Starbound has the ability to change both screen resolution and zoom levels. The default zoom levels are 2x zoom, 3x zoom, and 4x zoom. In Starbound, you can change your zoom level. If you go to your menu, under Options and Graphics, you will find a zoom level indicator here. By default, we have 2x, 3x, and 4x, but I am running a mod to give us more zoom levels. Okay, let's take a look at how screen resolution and zoom levels impacts your game. You'll notice that I have a background here made up of squares. Blocks are how Starbound references the game. Everything you build or interact with will take up a certain number of blocks. In order to see how that works, we are going to actually go out to a 1x zoom, which again, not available in the original game, but will show us how this system works. Starbound is based on an 8 pixel per block at 1x zoom system. Everything is based off of that, and it's just a mathematical calculation to figure out what your zoom level and screen resolution will impact. So here, each one of these little squares represents 8 pixels. If I do the math on this, I take my 8 pixels, divide that into 1920, which is my horizontal screen resolution, and we will arrive at 240. If you notice, I've marked out the number of blocks here, 120 this way, 120 this way. That represents our 240 blocks across the screen. Same thing if you look at the vertical. Up here, it goes to about 67.5, 68, right in there. And you'll actually see the same thing. If you take your 1080, divide it by 8, you'll come up with that number. Now, as we zoom in, this number changes. So if I zoom in by 2, you'll notice now my screen has gotten smaller, less blocks are shown, and it's just a mathematical calculation after this. Instead of 8, I now take my 8 pixels times my zoom level, which is 2, so it gives me 16. If I take 1920, divide it by 16, I'm going to get 120. Again, 60 in each direction for horizontal. And if I do the same thing vertically, I get about 35 in each direction. And this holds true all the way down. If we zoom in again, we now have a 3x zoom. If we take 8 times 3, we get 24. Divide 24 into 1920, and you end up with this 40-ish and 23 in each direction for your maximum number of blocks. And we will go one more, which is the default closest zoom. And you will see, again, take our 1920, take our 8 pixels times 4, which is 32, divide that into 1920, and you end up with 31, 30 about in each direction. And for vertical, you end up with 15, 16, 17, 18 in each direction. This holds true at any screen resolution. So let's go back out to 2x zoom and take a look at how this impacts at other resolutions. So you'll notice that my blue border here represents my 2x zoom at 1920 by 1080. My green border is my 3x zoom at 1920 by 1080. And my gray border is my 4x zoom at 1920 by 1080. I've also included some black boxes here. These black boxes represent the exact same zoom levels, times 2, times 3, and times 4, at 1366 by 768. So you can see that if you have a lower screen resolution, you will actually see less of the screen at each zoom level. It's interesting here that a 4x zoom level is pretty close to a 3x zoom level. Here your 4x zoom level is pretty close to 3. And our 4x here is pretty tight. Another feature to consider when we're talking about screen resolution and zoom levels is camera look. By default, this is the control key, will allow you to move your camera in a direction. Now you'll notice as I move my cursor and hold down my control key, I can move in different directions. So how is this calculated? Pretty simply, this is a 600 pixel pan. So I'm going to pan 600 pixels in any direction. This holds true regardless of your zoom level or your resolution. So the pans will actually be a little bit different. In 2x zoom at 1920 by 1080, that gives me about 38 blocks of pan. At 3x zoom, about 25 blocks of pan. And at 4x zooms, 19 blocks of pan. Interesting enough, because it is based off of 600 pixels, if you're running at a different resolution, the number of blocks at pan per zoom level will actually be the same. So if I'm running 1366 by 768 at 2x zoom, I'll get the same 38 blocks of pan. So how do you figure out how far you can pan? It's very similar math. You take your 8 pixels times your zoom level, divide that into 600, and that will give you how many blocks of pan you get. Okay, so we've seen how screen resolution and zoom levels impact our test environment. Now let's take a look at some other in-game situations where it might make a difference. Here we've constructed a tower that is 10 stories tall. At 4x zoom, you'll see we can see roughly 3 floors above us. And if we do the camera look command, we can get up to about floor 5.5. We make a change to our zoom settings. We will go down to a 3x zoom. You notice that now I can see almost 4 floors, and I have a camera look command that gets me up to floor 7. Finally, if we change to our 2x zoom, I can now see a little bit over 5 floors. And if I do my camera look command, I can see all the way to the top, just past the 10th floor into the roof, which would be our 11th floor. This shows how much difference your camera zoom level can make when you're trying to see things within the world. So here we are in an NPC town. You can see, I can roughly see the building I'm in. If I hold down my Alt key and look for interactable objects, you'll notice I can kind of see the ones around me. If we take our zoom out a level, to 3x zoom, you'll notice that now I can start to see the buildings on the side and some of the interactable objects that are within them. Going out one more level, you can now see I can see the buildings next to the building I'm in, and an interesting thing pops up. If you look underground, down on the left-hand side, there's actually an interactable chest that I couldn't even see when I was in the closer zoom levels. Now, I could see this if I used my camera pan. So if I go back to my 4x zoom and pan in that direction, you notice it will barely show up down there at the bottom. But a lot of times you're not going to do this while you're running through areas, so having a different zoom level is handy for looking for objects. So here's another situation you might find yourself in. You're underground, exploring, either looking for treasure and trying to maximize your efficiency in doing this. Again, if I hold down my Alt key, you'll notice the only thing I can see and interact with is this NPC. But let's take a look at how zoom levels impacts this. If we go out from 4 to 3, not a lot. I can see a little bit more ore. Also, you'll notice I can see a NPC over there, a monster that could attack me. So that extra vision is useful. Let's go out one more level. Here at 2x zoom, you can really start to see the advantage you gain. In the upper left, you'll see that I've got some crates and chairs and chests up there that I can interact with. In the upper right, there's another little base. This gives me an indication of which direction I can go. You can also on the screen notice how much more ore I can see. If we go out one more level to the modded level of 1x zoom, you're going to see that it really opens up the amount of stuff I can see. Not only do I have the 2 bases that I had up above, I can see down below me there's another NPC which might indicate another base, and you can really see the difference it makes if you're looking for ore. The amount of ore I can see in this view is actually relatively large compared to the other zoom levels. While I don't find it practical to play at this zoom level, if I'm looking for ore or chests or treasure, this is a good zoom level to take a peek at. I hope you found this look at screen resolutions and zoom levels useful. Our mission is to increase your knowledge of game systems in order to increase your gameplay ability and enjoyment of the game. Find the resolution and zoom settings that work for you and your playstyle. Enjoy exploring in Starbound. Thank you for watching this Deconstruction Gaming video. If you found this information useful, please take the time to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Your support is critical in helping the channel grow. You can also find links in the description to support the channel and follow us on social media. When you subscribe, don't forget to hit the notification bell icon to be alerted when we upload new videos.